I want to share with you an advice given by Imam Ghazali rahimahullah. He said that fasting is of three levels. The first is the fasting of the ordinary, the second is the fasting of the special, and the third is the fasting of the elite. SubhanAllah, what did he mean by this? He said the first, the fasting of those who just stay away from food and drink and their desires when it comes to their spouses, but that's about it. Their tongues don't fast, their ears don't fast, and their eyes don't fast. SubhanAllah. You see, some people, they may fast in the day, but their tongues, their mouths are running and talking nonsense. Their eyes are looking at things that they know they shouldn't be looking at, not lowering their gaze. And their ears are listening to all types of things which they know are displeasing to Allah. And here the Prophet said in an authentic hadith, كَم مِّن صَائِمٍ لَيْسَ لَهُ مِن صِيَامِهِ إِلَّا الْجُوعُ وَالْعَطَشِ. How many people out there who fast and yet all they get from their fast is hunger and thirst? You see, fasting, my dear brothers and sisters, is supposed to be a physical exercise that brings a spiritual fruit. Anyone know the name of the spiritual fruit? At-taqwa. This is what Allah said in the Quran. يا أيها الذين آمنوا كتب عليكم الصيام كما كتب على الذين من قبلكم لعلكم تتقون. Believers, fasting has been written for you, just like it was on those before you, so that perhaps you may attain at-taqwa, this spiritual fruit of the heart, which is about being able to control your urges and impulses, to do something haram, to hold back on that impulse for the sake of Allah, and thereby guarding yourself from the anger and the punishment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This idea of fasting, staying away from food and drink, which breaks your desires, and what it does, it weakens your appetite, producing this spiritual fruit, the ability to say no to impulse, the ability to say no to shaitan. This is a skill of the pious. The ability to say no when everyone else says yes, the ability not to cave into your desire. This is the impact fasting is supposed to have, and that's why the first level of the ordinary is nothing special, because many people out there, they can stay away from food and drink for a few hours, but how many people can stay away from listening to their impulses and the whispers of shaitan? So this is the first category of the ordinary. Brothers and sisters, you are way too smart to fall into such a lowly form of fasting. Aspire to either number 2 or number 3. What is number 2? It is the fasting of the special. Imam Ghazali said, this is the fasting of the ones who not only stay away from food and drink and desire, but their tongues fast for the sake of Allah. They think before they speak. They think about where they're going to go, how they're going to spend their time, and they are cautious about what they look at. This is a special kind of fasting, and it is the type of fasting that is more valuable and beloved to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What's next though? Could there be anything more than this? He said yes. The third category is the fasting of the elite. He said this is the fasting of the prophets. He said not only do they fast like the ordinary, not only do they stay away from sinning with their eyes, their tongues and their ears, but also their hearts fast as well. Their hearts fast, he said, from having concern with every worldly matter, instead focusing their hearts solely on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Subhanallah. Very difficult. Very difficult to spend that day of fasting thinking about nothing to do with the dunya, only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Actually, it's not that difficult. Especially the first few days when you're fasting, the hunger strikes. You feel that the pangs of hunger. In those moments, remind yourself about why you're fasting. You are fasting for Allah. You are fasting to please Allah. You are fasting to have those mistakes you've made in your life wiped away and forgotten by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So actually, the hunger that comes is almost like someone knocking at that door on your heart to remind you about why you're doing it, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. My brothers and sisters, let us aspire to have a better Ramadan, a greater Ramadan. One interesting thing before I finish, what's the difference between number 2 and 3? Well, you see, some people, they may fast a true fast, staying away from sins, watching what they say. But isn't it possible that this person, he spends his whole day, or she spends a whole day fasting, only thinking about the meal that they're going to enjoy in the evening, spending countless hours in preparing for it, trying to make it extra special, thinking about that huge mountain of samosa that they're going to plow through as soon as the clock strikes that time? You see, here your heart is not fasting. Your heart is thinking about what? It's thinking about enjoying itself when that moment comes. And though this isn't a sin, it is definitely not as good as the one whose heart is also fasting for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Believers, fasting was prescribed upon you just like it was those before you.